Hello and welcome to the ARKS Advice Episode 1. We're going to have a series of episodes where we will talk about various things that will get you through the IIMs. Not just the IIMs at the end level, but starting from how do you crack the CAT exam, the other exams like the ZAT, the NMAT, the SNAP, and of course, making sure that you have the right information at every given moment of time. In this episode 1, ARKS, that's yours truly, will take you through the IIM selection process. Let me take you through what is it that an IIM looks for. There are 20 IIMs, mind you, ABCLIK, the Blackie as somebody calls it, the old ones, the Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Lucknow, Indore, and Kozhikode, and then the Shillong. And of course, the 7 new IIMs and another 6 new IIMs and another 7 new IIMs. Together, we are talking about 20 IIMs. If somebody asks a question, how do you get into an IIM? There is no one right answer because each IIM has its own criteria for selection. An IIM Kozhikode, for example, gives a lot more weightage to a woman, and IIM Indore, for that matter, gives a lot more weightage to a 10th and a 12th scores. But make no mistake, all of them and every one of them will take you. You can only get there if you crack the common admission test, the CAT as they call it, probably the most coveted exam that one has to crack to get into the best IIMs or the best management institutes itself in this country. So let's look at it very, very quickly. What do we go about and how do you get into the admission process? There are 3 parts. The first one is obviously the preliminary screening part. There is a profile score and a CAT score. Unless you are crossing these two, you will not even get to the next level, that is the interview call. And even at the interview call, there is a filtering out to get a final admit call. So we'll look at the 3 processes and what are critical for you to make it to the coveted IIMs. The first one is the preliminary screening. A lot of information here, but interestingly, what you need to realize and see it very closely is that the IIMs make sure that you can get into an IIM, in each of these IIMs. You don't have to be brilliant in everything. In fact, the cut-off, the minimum percentile required to get a chance to get into an interview is not very, very high. If you look at IIM Ahmedabad, for example, as I see it here on screen, there are 3 sections, as you might know in CAT, the VARC, the DILR, and the QA section. 70 percentile. 70 percentile is all that you require as a bare minimum cutoff as far as the CAT is concerned. That goes up to 85 for a IIM Lucknow for a general category student. But if you look at, for example, an SC/ST students for an IIM Kozhikode or an IIM Indore, it's as low as 55 percentile. 55 percentile is just about half of the students who are writing the exam, approximately. Which means to say, to get into an IIM, at least have a chance to make it to an IIM, the minimum cutoff, whether you are good in VARC or bad, QA good or bad, doesn't matter, if you can cross the minimum percentile cutoff. And that is what we are talking about, and it is very much possible. Of course, is it that if I get a 70 percentile in VARC, 70 percentile in DILR, and 70 percentile in QA, including an 80 percentile in the overall, will I definitely get a call from an IIM Ahmedabad general category? No, that is not what we are talking about. What we are saying is, if you don't have this, you don't have a chance to get into an IIM Ahmedabad. But if you have this, there are other things I told you, the preliminary screening, which include the profile that you have and the number of other applicants that come in along with it, so that you will get a chance to get into the interview room. So we will look at all those things too. But first things first, Let's look at it. 70 percentile, 80 percentile, and 85 percentile. That is the cutoffs for the general category. It will be much lower for other institutes, for other categories like SC/ST. If you look at it, 60 percentile for the Ahmedabad, or even a 55 percentile for Lucknow, or 65 percentile for a IIM Calcutta for a VARC. So let's look at what really do we mean by percentile. How does this convert itself into a score? Here is the scores that are very, very interesting for you to know. 66 questions. That was CAT 2021 for you. 24 of them were from VARC, 20 from DILR, and 22 from quantitative ability. And if I look at an IIM Ahmedabad cutoff, 70 percentile, as you can see, the VARC section was 18 marks, 12 marks, and 8 marks in QA. That's it. 18 marks, 12 marks, and 8 marks. And if you had got 45 marks out of the total of 198, remember 66 questions, 3 marks per question, 198 total. At 45, you have the eligibility. You have the eligibility to at least have a chance to go into IIM Ahmedabad. Even for an IIM Lucknow, which is the highest percentile cutoffs, 85 percentile is just 24 marks in VARC. Remember, 24 questions is 72 marks. That's 1/3. 17 marks out of 60, less than 1/3. 14 marks out of 66, obviously much less than 1/3. With that, you can still make it to an IIM Lucknow. Remember, all your lives, the percentage to pass was something like 35%. Here, less than 35% if you get, you are eligible to get into an IIM interview. Of course, like I said, it's not all that you need to look at it. There are many other things like your 10th, 12th academic, work experience, gender, or degree, everything else that counts for some of these institutes. Let's look at them. But the clearing the sectional cutoff, but that is not enough, because if you want to go to interview call, there are other things. The CAT score is taken along with what we call the application rating. And how does this application rating work? Institute by institute gives a different information. Institute by institute takes a different criteria. But if you look at the overall, all the parameters that will finally affect in one way or the other to one institute or the other are the 10th class scores, your 12th class scores, the sins of your past. The sins of your past do come back to haunt once in a while, but then don't worry. There is a graduation, there is a quantum of work experience, the number of years of work experience or a months of work experience, gender diversity. You know, it used to be talked that being a woman is not the greatest thing, but in India, and if you want to get into an IIM, nothing better than being a woman in this country. Excellent chances of making it for similar scores of 10th, 12th, and degree for that matter. And academic diversity. You know, there used to be a thought process that only the IITs, only the engineers get into the IIMs. But if you look at it now, every IIM gives value, almost every IIM gives value to your academic diversity. And that, I think, is going to make a difference to people who are non-engineers also, whatever your background is. Let me give you an example. For IIM Ahmedabad, the total score, if it's 100, the CAT weightage is only 65%, not the 100%. The 10th score is 10, 12th score is 10, graduation score is 10, and the work experience is 5. But behold the IIM Indore cutoff. IIM Indore, 100% weightage, 20% only is CAT score, 34% is 10th, 40% is 12th, and 6% for actually gender diversity, not even academic diversity. IIM Kozhikode has gender and academic diversity together. And I think that is what is important for us to understand. What do you have? Which ones do you have? And based on what you have, how do you plan your entire preparation also makes a huge, huge difference, right? Then some other interesting facts which are very, very useful for you to understand. Like, for example, a graduate from an IIFT with a 24 months experience will probably get a IIM Kozhikode call with just a 90 percentile. And an IIM Bangalore call can be at 97 percentile if you have work experience of 2.5, 3 years. And in IIM Calcutta, the interesting thing, and that's my alma mater, if you have 80% in 10th and 12th, you get full marks for your academics. And because everybody has 80-80 these days, it's almost the CAT score that matters to get into an IIM Calcutta. Let's look at something else. What can we do in this application rating? You can't do anything in your 10th score. You can't do anything for your 12th score if you are already finished your 10th and 12th. You have whatever gender you have. You can't get into a gender change operation at this stage, nor for that matter in academic diversity, unless suddenly you want to quit engineering and get back to your BA, BCom, BSc or whatever else that you want to do, but that's not practical. So all those four things cannot be changed. What can be changed is if you are in a final year graduate or a second year graduate or a pre-final year graduate, you can change the graduate score. Some of the institutes take it, like IIM Lucknow. You can also change the quantum of your work experience if you are already working 1 year. So you don't have to despair if you're not getting the very first time. Sometimes 1 more year can only help you to kind of give your application a stronger weightage to go into these IIMs. And that is what can be changed. What else can be changed? Nothing else. If you have finished your graduation, the only thing that can be changed is work experience. That's it. Simple. Of course, what you can also change is the interview, the way in which you can get into an interview. And that's where the admit call. How do you get an admit call? Is if you get the profile, if you get the CAT score, are you going to be through? No, you're not going to be through. You have to go through a personal interview and a WAT, the writing ability test, as they call it. Personal interview is extremely important. They want to tell you, they want to ask you, why would you want to do an MBA? And why do you think you are made for this MBA as compared to the rest of the others who have also got shortlisted like you? And the admit call, very, very broadly, I can tell you, will finally depend on the personal interview, the WAT score, the test score still, and of course the profile score. Except that, as you can see, except for IIM Bangalore, where the profile score is about 25% at the final stage, most of the others are less than 20%. Most of the others are less than 20-25%. In fact, for IIM Bangalore, it is 35%. For IIM Ranchi and IIM Raipur, it is 30%. But if you look at an IIM Ahmedabad, it's only 15%. IIM Calcutta, it's only 15%. Your Lucknow is only about 22% or 22.5%, etc. kind of things. But what is important is the greens, the personal interview score. Remember, 50% of it is for IIM Ahmedabad will be still after getting a call, the interview matters. Look at for IIM Calcutta, 54% matters. For the personal interview matters, 54% for your final selection. And so is for every other institute. The least probably being IIM Udaipur, which will still look at something like about 15%. But then they take the test score highest. They take the profile score pretty high, but still the interview matters. So when you are preparing, what the best can you do right now? What is the best that you can do right now? At each of these stages, what you cannot do is profile. That's over and done with. From today onwards, you have these three in your hand. You can change your test score. You can change your personal interview and the WAT score beginning today, if it is before the CAT exam that you're talking about, and you have enough and more time for that. Even institutes like XLRI, FMS, MDI Gurgaon, IIT Bombay, IIFT, TIS, all of these, you can get into it, not just the IIMs, provided you work first on the test score and along with it probably also hone up your entire profile so that your personal interview and the WAT becomes much more easy. So what is your game plan right now? Given that we have enough time for the CAT exam, and there is a lot of time for the CAT exam if you are thinking of it and listening to it at least before the CAT, whichever CAT you're writing, you have to concentrate on cracking the entrance examination. Each of the entrances each of the sections that are there, you need to first score bare minimum in each of the sections. And of course, also make sure that you get the overall. Now, here is the last statement I'm going to make. It is not difficult. And I'm telling you again, very confidently, it is not as difficult as it seems outside to get into an IIM, even if you want a 99.5 percentile. Remember, it was only 107 marks out of 198. 107 out of 198 is not difficult if you prepare well, prepare consistently, and with a commitment that you want to make it to the best of the IIMs. We are here always to help you. My advice, ARKSS advice, will be there to you, ensure that you are on the right path to cracking your exam. Thank you. See you in the next episode very, very quickly. All the best.